How y'all doing tonight? Some of you might not know me, but most of you do. My name's Julius. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of how I ended up in Eustis, Florida. I started doing, so growing up, my parents didn't hide anything from me. They started doing drugs with me at an early age. I was 5 when I smoked my first joint with my parents. And I took my first shot of Crown Royal before that. I was probably 4. I didn't like the alcohol, but it is what it is. And so growing, when I would go fishing with my dad and his buddies, you didn't have bottled water and stuff back then to go buy at the gas station, and they bought beer and put in their cooler, and if I was thirsty, that's what I drank, beer. So, where was I going with this? So moving on, my parents weren't drug dealers. They did drugs. My father was a park ranger near Kansas City, Missouri. Then he went on to be a probation and parole officer. And so he didn't really have to worry about having any repercussions from the law about doing drugs and stuff. He went to school with most of the lawyers in town and the judges and the sheriff. So he did whatever he wanted. And when I got to school, I didn't really fit in with the other kids because I was already drinking and smoking pot. And I didn't fit in with the adults either because I was a kid. So I got to high school, went through middle school. Well, my parents got divorced. And then all of a sudden my mom tells me, you got to quit smoking pot and drinking. I'm like, well, I don't want to now. I like it, So I kept on going. I'd sneak in my dad's drawer and steal his roaches and still smoking pot and drinking the spiders at the New Year's Eve parties and Christmas parties, nobody was looking. And about the 6th grade, I started realizing my stepdad, he did coke. And he didn't do any of that with me, but I knew where he kept it. So one day I got in his stash and tried some cocaine. And I liked it, so here I am in 6th grade and going to school with the kids. They're stealing cigarettes out of their mom and dad's cigarette packs, I'm getting coke. And went on like that. Then I got a couple of buddies that their parents partied too, and we started smoking pot together. And by the time we got into high school, we were off the chain, and somehow, like Rodney, I graduated too, but I think it had to do with me selling some of my teachers coke and pot, So I got through high school somehow, and my parents, when I graduated, they said, okay, you've got a year to decide what you're going to do. You can either go to college, you can go to work, or you can go in the military. So the year was about up, and I joined the Navy. I went to basic in Great Lakes in Chicago. I got out and I went to jungle training with the Marines, and I was deployed to Afghanistan. I did some things in Afghanistan that they didn't kick me out, but they sent me back to the States, awaiting military trial. And while I was back at Great Lakes again, I got caught smoking pot, and they kicked me out for smoking weed. So I went back home, and I didn't go back home with my head up. I was embarrassed. So off the chain again. Partied for quite a few years, doing meth, coke. Hadn't got into the opiates yet, but that's really what got me with the opiates. I started doing opiates, and I moved down to Florida to get away from everything. I moved to Naples in 2001, and that's when you could go to the doctor and get anything you wanted, And I was down here for a few years, and my real father had just had a liver transplant. So he asked me if I would come up and help him take care of his mother. He had his mother living with him while he just got his liver transplant. And so I did. and I come up here, and I found another pill doctor here, or in St. Louis. And I went to the doctor one day, and they said, well, Doc, he went back to the Philippines. I was like, why is that? He was being charged with 48 counts of manslaughter for people overdosing on his stuff. So now I don't have a doctor, and I'm addicted to pain pills. Heroin and fentanyl are cheaper, you know, and you don't have to go to the doctor. So I got doing heroin and fentanyl for a long time, and a lot of it. And would work a job, you know, a year, quit, and I got really bad on it. And I got to where I couldn't work. Couldn't wait till Friday to get my paycheck because I had too big of a drug habit. I couldn't wait till Friday because if I wait till Friday, I'd spend all my money on Friday and then wouldn't be able to get high all week. So I started robbing people. I'd go see people and go in their medicine cabinet, take their pain pills. And a lady called the cops on me one time for taking her pain pills. I ended up not going to court. Ran down to Naples again, and I got pulled over for having a license plate lied out and got extradited back to St. Louis. And I went to court, and they put me on probation. I got out on probation and quit going to my PO. So I went to prison for 18 months. I got out, and I did real good for a while. I was working for a big tire company in St. Louis, and started doing heroin again. And one day I left at lunch and didn't go back. And I lost just about everything. When my truck got repoed, I went back to Naples to be with this girl I know in Naples. And things went south with her. She got evicted from her house, and I ended up on the streets of Naples with no money, nowhere to go. And I called my boss, or my buddy, and he got me a bus ticket. So I got on the bus and started going back home to St. Louis. I had a layover in Tampa, and I got off the bus to go smoke a cigarette, and there was a guy out there, he was smoking a blunt. So I took a couple hits off of this blunt, and it wasn't weed I was smoking. It was some kind of this synthesized weed or whatever it was. But the next thing I know, I turn around and my bag's gone with my wallet and my phone and everything in it. And I'm in the middle of a four-way intersection in Tampa with the cops asking me who I was. And I couldn't even tell them who I was. I didn't know where I was at, who I was, or anything. So they Baker acted me and took me to a mental hospital in Tampa. Let me out a few days later, and I started hitchhiking. I started walking up the highway, Highway 75, the only way I knew to do north. And the cops pulled over and said, "Hey, you can't be walking along the highway." Well, what am I supposed to do? Well, we don't know, but you can't be doing that. So I walked to the next exit and went to a gas station, and I got a ride to a rest area. And I started hitching a ride from rest area to rest area. And I got to just outside of Gainesville, and I had been praying, you know, God, just please help me, man. And so I'm sitting at this rest area in Gainesville, and this carload of black ladies pulls up, and they start talking to me. And I tell them a little bit about what's going on, and they went and bought me a soda and a bag of chips and came back out, and they said, "Honey, you gonna be all right?" I said, "No, I'm about ready to hang myself." And they said, "Don't do that, let us take you to the hospital." And they took me to the hospital in Gainesville, and I was in there for about a week. And I didn't know where I was gonna go, and they were gonna kick me out to this place called Grace Marketplace. It's a tent city. And I just knew if I went there, I was gonna die. But they gave me a sheet of numbers and told me to start calling these places. Hand in Hand Recovery was on there. I called them and talked to James Wickstead, and he said, "Yeah, let me go over some stuff and I'll call you back." Yeah, right. You know, I've been getting told that all my life. Call you back. Well, a couple days later, he called me back and said, can you be here Wednesday at 10 o'clock? I said, yeah, I think I can. So I had a place to go. And I'm thinking, oh, they said this was a faith-based recovery program. And I had a picture of a bunch of guys in white shirts with black ties walking around reading the Bible. I was like, how am I going to fit in with this crowd? And, a voice told me, well, you prayed for help, didn't you? What did you expect? So I got there, and it was people like me, and I got there, and I had the clothes I had on, and that was it. And so they started giving me stuff. Take these clothes, take these clothes. I said, man, I don't want to take all this stuff, because if I leave, I don't want more than I can throw in my bag and carry. And by the end of the night, I had a whole stack of clothes, You're not leaving. So went on, and I was a little doubtful at first, and a couple of the guys came up on me and they said, hey, listen, they said, some people have a choice whether they want to be here or not. You're not one of them. Thank God they did. But they put me on we've got a board, it's a progress board. It has, what have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about the Bible? How many times have you used the grit filter? Grit filter, what is that, man? It stands for God, integrity, God, relationships, integrity, and truth. I didn't know much about it then, and I started learning, I started trying these things that they were telling me about, and they started working. So I kept trying them again and again, and they kept working. So that was 8 months ago, and it's the longest I've been clean in my whole life. And glad it all worked out like it did. When you pray about stuff, you have this idea in your head of how it's going to happen. But in my case, it didn't happen like that. But it probably happened better than I thought in my head.
And how about your employment?
Huh?
And how about your employment?
Oh. Yeah, and I'm going to be working for these guys now.